Barron Trump walked briskly down a bustling New York street, his breath visible in the icy air. The city shimmered with holiday lights, but he felt a quiet sadness beneath the cheerful decorations. While most people rushed past, eager to reach their warm homes, Barron took his time, observing the contrast between wealth and hardship. The tall buildings, adorned with shimmering lights, cast long shadows over the streets below, where the less fortunate huddled for warmth. Snowflakes drifted down from the dark sky, settling gently on the sidewalks, but they provided no comfort to those without shelter. As he passed an alley, a faint shuffling sound caught his attention. The distant honking of taxis and the murmur of pedestrians blurred into the background as Barron stopped to listen more closely. He turned toward the sound and noticed a boy, no older than 10, curled up against a dumpster. His clothes were threadbare, and his face was pale with hunger. A tattered blanket barely covered his trembling frame, offering little protection from the biting cold. His eyes were closed, and his breathing was shallow, as if he had long since grown accustomed to the struggle for warmth. Barron hesitated, unsure of what to do, but something inside him pushed him forward. He knelt beside the boy, his heart pounding. "Hey, are you all right?" he asked softly. The child flinched at the sound of his voice and pulled the blanket tighter around himself, his wide, fearful eyes peering out from beneath it. I'm fine," the boy stammered, though his trembling hands and chattering teeth told another story. Barron could see the exhaustion in his face, the hunger in his sunken cheeks. He had never known what it was like to go hungry or to sleep without a warm bed, and the realization of this child's suffering made his stomach tighten. Barron glanced around. Pedestrians continued to pass by, wrapped in their coats and scarves, oblivious or indifferent to the boy's plight. He realized that if he walked away now, the boy might not survive the night. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. "Here," Barron said, shrugging off his thick winter coat. He wrapped it around the boy, who stiffened at first but then relaxed into the warmth. "Come on, let's get you somewhere warm." His voice was gentle but firm, a quiet determination setting in. The boy hesitated, his eyes darting from Barron to the unfamiliar surroundings, as if expecting a trick. "Why are you helping me?" he whispered. Barron smiled slightly. "Because I can, and because no one should have to be alone on a night like this." For a moment, the boy said nothing. Then, finally, he nodded, his defenses lowering. Barron stood and held out a hand. After a brief hesitation, the boy took it, his fingers ice-cold in Barron's grasp. Together, they stepped out of the alley and into the bustling city, walking toward an uncertain but hopeful future. The wind howled through the streets as Barron led the boy to a nearby diner. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries filled the air as they stepped inside, a stark contrast to the bitter cold they had left behind. The waitress glanced at them with curiosity but said nothing as Barron guided the boy to a booth near the window. The bright neon lights outside cast a soft glow on the boy's face, highlighting the fatigue in his features. "Sit here," Barron instructed gently. The boy obeyed, his movements cautious, as if expecting to be scolded or thrown out at any moment. Barron signaled for the waitress, who approached with a warm smile. "What can I get you to?" she asked, her pen poised over her notepad. Barron turned to the boy. "Order whatever you want," he encouraged. The boy hesitated. I don't want to cause trouble," he murmured. "You're not causing trouble," Barron assured him. "Go ahead." After a long pause, the boy finally whispered, "Can I have some soup? And maybe some bread?" The waitress nodded, jotting down the order. "And for you, hon?" "Just a coffee, thanks," Barron replied. He wasn't particularly hungry. His focus was entirely on making sure the boy was taken care of. As they waited for the food, Barron studied the boy more closely. He was thin, too thin, and his eyes carried the haunted look of someone who had seen far too much suffering for his age. "What's your name?" Barron asked softly. "Liam," the boy replied hesitantly. "Been on my own for a while now. My mom, she got sick, and we lost everything. I tried to stay in shelters, but it's hard." Barron's heart clenched at Liam's words. He had never known real hardship, and hearing Liam's story made him acutely aware of his own privilege. "I'm sorry," he said sincerely. "That must have been really tough." Liam shrugged, staring down at the table. "I just got used to it, I guess. People don't really see you when you're on the streets. It's like you don't exist." Before Barron could respond, the waitress returned with a steaming bowl of soup and a plate of bread. Liam's eyes widened at the sight, and he wasted no time digging in. Barron watched as he ate, noting the way he savored each bite, as if he hadn't had a proper meal in weeks. "Slow down." Barron chuckled. "It's not going anywhere." Liam looked up, embarrassed. "Sorry, I don't always get to eat like this." Barron shook his head. "You don't have to apologize. I'm just glad you're eating." They sat in silence for a while, the sounds of the diner humming around them. As Liam finished his meal, Barron pulled out his phone. He knew he couldn't just leave Liam on the streets again. He needed a plan. "Liam, I want to help you," Barron said firmly. "I know some people, good people, who can find you a safe place to stay. Would you be okay with that?" Liam hesitated, his expression wary. "Why are you doing this?" Barron sighed. "Because no one should have to go through what you have. And because if I were in your shoes, I'd want someone to help me too." Liam studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay." A small smile crossed Barron's face. "Good. We'll figure this out together." As they left the diner, stepping back into the cold, Barron knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning of something bigger. As Barron and Liam stepped back into the freezing night, a sense of purpose ignited in Barron's heart. He had learned Liam's name, but now he wanted to know his story, the details of his past, the struggles he had endured, and what had brought him to this point. Over the next several hours, as they walked through the quiet city streets, Liam slowly unraveled his past. He spoke about his mother, who had once worked tirelessly to provide for him. He described the moment she had fallen ill, and the desperate attempts to keep their tiny apartment. As his voice cracked with emotion, Barron listened with rapt attention, his determination to help solidifying with every word. The frigid night air wrapped around Barron and Liam as they walked through the quiet streets of New York. Despite the warmth of Barron's coat, Liam still shivered, and his tired eyes darted around anxiously. Barron could tell that Liam was wary. After all, people had promised him help before, only to let him down. Barron knew he had to prove that he was different. "Come on," Barron said gently, leading Liam toward the entrance of a luxury hotel. Liam hesitated, staring at the grand entrance and the doorman standing at attention. "I don't think they'll let me in," Liam muttered, shifting uncomfortably. Barron grinned. "They'll let us in." With quiet confidence, Barron walked up the steps, nodding to the doorman. "Good evening, sir," he greeted politely. The doorman, recognizing Barron, stepped aside without a word, allowing them entry. Liam followed cautiously, his head lowered. Inside, the hotel lobby was warm and brightly lit, a stark contrast to the cold streets outside. Liam's wide eyes took in the luxurious decor, from the grand chandelier to the plush carpets. It was as if he had stepped into another world. Barron approached the concierge desk. "I need a room for the night," he said. The concierge, a well-dressed woman, gave him a courteous smile before glancing at Liam. Her smile faltered slightly, but Barron didn't give her a chance to refuse. "Put it under my name," he added firmly. A few minutes later, they were handed a keycard, and Barron led Liam toward the elevator. Liam clutched the keycard tightly, still looking skeptical. "You don't have to do this," he murmured. "I'll be fine." Barron shook his head. "You don't have to be fine alone anymore." Once they reached their suite, Barron gestured toward the bathroom. "You can take a shower and warm up. There are extra clothes in the closet." Liam hesitated, then nodded. "Okay." As Liam showered, Barron sat on the bed, thinking. He knew this was only a temporary solution. Liam needed more than one warm night. He needed stability. He needed a home. When Liam finally stepped out of the bathroom, he was wrapped in a fluffy hotel robe, looking clean but still uncertain. Barron smiled. "Feel better?" Liam nodded. "Yeah, thanks." "Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next," Barron said. "I know some people who might be able to help." Liam sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. "I don't want to go to a foster home," he admitted. "They don't always treat you right." Barron frowned. He had read about the flaws in the foster care system. "We'll find a better option," he promised. "I'll make sure of it." Liam finally looked up, his expression hopeful but cautious. "Why are you doing all this?" Barron leaned forward. "Because you deserve better, and because I can." That night, for the first time in months, Liam slept in a warm bed, while Barron lay awake, already planning how to change his new friend's future for the better. Expanded further to 5,000 words, exploring the process of finding Liam a permanent home, Barron's emotional investment, and their growing bond. Barron woke up early, his mind already racing with ideas about what to do next. He glanced over at Liam, who was still sound asleep in the plush hotel bed. The boy looked peaceful, but Barron knew that the uncertainty of the future loomed over them both. He had promised Liam a better future, and he intended to keep that promise. After ordering breakfast from room service, Barron made a few calls. His first call was to his mother, Melania. She listened carefully as he explained the situation. "Barron, this is very kind of you," she said, "but helping someone takes more than just a night in a hotel. Are you ready to commit to this?" "Yes, Mom," Barron answered without hesitation. "I can't just leave him on the streets." Melania sighed softly. "All right, let me talk to some people. We'll find a solution." After breakfast, Barron and Liam took a walk through Central Park. It was a cold morning, but the sunlight made the day feel a little less bleak. Liam was quieter than usual, and Barron could sense his unease. "What's wrong?" Barron asked. Liam kicked at a pile of snow. "I guess I'm just not used to this, having someone care." Barron frowned. "That's going to change." They stopped at a bench overlooking the frozen pond. "I want to help other kids like you," Barron admitted. "Not just for tonight, but for good." Liam looked at him in surprise. "You'd really do that?" Barron nodded. "I don't want anyone to feel like they don't matter." That evening, Barron's parents arranged a meeting with a non-profit organization specializing in helping homeless youth. Liam was hesitant about the idea, but Barron assured him he would be by his side the whole way. At the shelter, they met with a woman named Sarah, who worked as a case manager. She spoke kindly to Liam, asking about his background and what he wanted for his future. "We can help you, Liam," she assured him. "But it's going to take time." Liam looked at Barron. "Are you still going to be around?" Barron didn't hesitate. "Of course." Over the next few weeks, Barron became deeply involved in Liam's transition. He visited regularly, bringing books, clothes, and sometimes just keeping him company. He also used his influence to raise awareness for youth homelessness, organizing a fundraiser to support shelters across the city. As Liam adjusted to his new life, Barron saw a change in him. He was smiling more, laughing even. One evening, as they sat together in the shelter's common room, Liam turned to him. "You know," he said, "you changed my life." Barron smiled. "No, you changed your life. I just helped." Months later, Liam found a permanent home with a caring foster family. On the day he moved in, Barron helped him carry his things to his new room. "This is a new beginning for you," Barron said. Liam nodded, a determined look on his face. "And for you too. You're going to help a lot of kids, Barron." Barron knew that Liam was right. This was just the beginning of something much bigger. Barron sat in his family's living room, staring at his laptop screen, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. The past few months had been transformative, not just for Liam, but for himself as well. He had seen the harsh realities of youth homelessness, and he knew he couldn't turn away now. Determined to make a difference, Barron started researching organizations dedicated to helping homeless youth. He reached out to Sarah, the case manager at the shelter, to discuss ways he could continue supporting kids like Liam. She suggested he organize a larger campaign, something that could bring lasting change. Barron spoke with his parents about the idea. His father, Donald Trump, listened carefully as Barron laid out his plan. "I want to create a foundation," Barron explained. "Not just for Liam, but for every homeless kid who needs a chance." Donald nodded. "That's a big responsibility, Barron, but if you're serious about this, I'll support you." With his family's backing, Barron launched the Hope Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to providing shelter, education, and resources for homeless children. He used his platform to spread awareness, giving interviews, speaking at events, and meeting with government officials to advocate for policy changes that could improve the lives of homeless youth. Liam, now settled into his new home, became the first success story of the initiative. He often joined Barron at events, sharing his experience and inspiring others. "If Barron hadn't helped me that night, I don't know where I'd be today," Liam told an audience at a fundraiser. Every kid deserves a second chance. Barron worked tirelessly, coordinating with shelters, businesses, and volunteers to expand the program's reach. He met children who had faced unimaginable hardships: runaways, abuse survivors, kids who had been abandoned. Each story fueled his passion even more. One evening, as Barron visited a new shelter supported by the Hope Initiative, he sat down with a group of children. "What do you dream about?" he asked them. A little girl, no older than 6, shyly whispered, "A home." Barron swallowed the lump in his throat. "We're going to make that happen." As the Hope Initiative grew, Barron found himself in meetings with lawmakers, advocating for increased funding for shelters and better protection for homeless youth. He also pushed for education programs to help kids get back into school and find stable futures. Through it all, Barron remained hands-on. He didn't just fundraise. He visited shelters regularly, spent time with the kids, and made sure that the organization was truly making a difference. A year after Liam's rescue, the Hope Initiative had helped over 500 children find safe housing. At the anniversary gala, Barron stood on stage looking out at a crowd of supporters, volunteers, and kids whose lives had changed because of the foundation. "This started with one act of kindness," he said. "One cold night when I met Liam, I realized that no child should have to face the world alone. But we can't stop here. We have the power to change lives. Let's keep going." The audience erupted into applause. Liam stood in the front row, smiling proudly. Barron knew this was just the beginning. The work was never done, but he had found his purpose. He wasn't just helping Liam anymore. He was changing the world, one child at a time. 1 year had passed since Barron had met Liam on that fateful winter night. The world around them had changed, but the most profound transformation had been within them both. Barron had grown from a concerned bystander into a committed advocate, while Liam had blossomed into a confident, hopeful young man with a bright future ahead. The Hope Initiative had exceeded all expectations. What had begun as a small act of kindness had become a national movement. Over 1,500 children had found safe housing through the organization's efforts, and thousands more had received meals, medical care, and access to education. The impact was undeniable. Barron's days were filled with meetings, speeches, and visits to shelters. He worked tirelessly to ensure that every child who came through the Hope Initiative's doors had a chance to rebuild their lives. He had also built partnerships with corporations, securing funding for scholarship programs and long-term housing solutions. Despite his growing responsibilities, Barron remained personally invested in the people he helped. One afternoon, he visited Liam at his new school, watching from a distance as his friend laughed with classmates, no longer the shy and wary boy he had once been. "You did that," Sarah, the shelter caseworker, said as she stood beside Barron. He shook his head. "No, he did. He just needed someone to believe in him." That evening, the Hope Initiative hosted its annual gala, a grand event that celebrated their achievements and raised funds for future projects. Dressed in a sleek tuxedo, Barron took the stage, his heart pounding as he looked out over the sea of supporters. "1 year ago, I met a boy who had lost hope, a boy who had been forgotten by the world. But Liam wasn't the only one. Thousands of children face the same struggles every day. That's why we're here tonight, because every child deserves a home, an education, and a chance to dream." The audience erupted into applause. Among them, Liam beamed with pride. As the night came to an end, Barron reflected on how much had changed. He had found his purpose, and he knew his work was far from over. The journey that had begun with one boy on a cold winter night had turned into a movement that would continue changing lives for years to come.